The night had a strange glow. Too bright to be real, too soft to be imagined. It was the kind of night that seemed to hover on the fragile line between reality and dream, where the air feels electric and the sky seems to breathe. That was the night Xiao Zhan found himself running through a silent cityscape that shimmered like glass, breathless, chasing a feeling he couldn't explain. He didn't know why he was running. All he knew was that someone was waiting at the other end of this glowing, impossible city. Someone who felt familiar, almost painfully so. The neon reflections in the puddles rippled as though they were portals, and every footstep sent echoes spiraling into infinity. Somewhere behind him a voice called out, a voice soft, low, and unmistakably steady. Yibo. The sound of it broke through the fog like a lighthouse beam. Xiao Zhan turned sharply, his breath catching, but the city stretched and bent like molten metal. One moment, it was a street he recognized. The next, it was a corridor of mirrors reflecting infinite versions of himself. Then, emerging from that kaleidoscope of fractured reality, Wang Yibo stepped out as though the dream itself had shaped him. His expression carried the same calm intensity Xiao Zhan remembered from years that felt like another lifetime, a mix of challenge and reassurance, of mischief and understanding. "You're late," Yibo said. His tone light but his eyes carrying something weightier, something that vibrated like a secret. Xiao Zhan let out a small breath, half a laugh, half a tremble. "I didn't know I was supposed to be coming." "You were," Yibo replied. "Even if you didn't remember." The city flickered around them, shifting from neon blues to soft gold, as though reacting to their presence. Somewhere in the distance, a melody began to play. Something haunting, something nostalgic. Reality or dream? Xiao Zhan couldn't tell. But he knew one thing. This place was built from the gravity that always existed between them. They walked together through the dream city as it changed shape with every step. One moment, skyscrapers dotted the horizon. The next, lanterns floated overhead like drifting stars. It felt like the universe was unfolding itself for them, creating a path only they could follow. At the edge of a quiet lake that mirrored the sky perfectly, Yibo paused. "This isn't a dream," he said softly. "Not completely." Xiao Zhan frowned slightly. "Then what is it?" "A memory," Yibo said quietly. "Or the echo of one." The water rippled, and suddenly, Xiao Zhan saw scenes unfold on the lake's surface, moments he recognized but hadn't thought of in years. Their laughter during rehearsals, late-night conversations over instant noodles, silence that felt alive, a bond that didn't need words. But then the scene shifted again. Now the lake showed something else, something that had never happened, something impossible yet emotionally true. He saw himself and Yibo standing together on a rooftop far above the world, facing the sunrise as though it belonged to them. He felt Yibo beside him shift slightly. "Sometimes the things we don't say," Yibo murmured, "build entire worlds in our minds." The dream city glowed brighter, almost pulsing. Xiao Zhan felt his heartbeat synchronize with it. And suddenly the world split. A doorway of light opened behind Yibo, pulling the city, the lake, the sky, everything into a swirl of luminous fragments. Xiao Zhan reached out instinctively, fingers brushing Yibo's hand. Warm, real, anchoring. But the dream had its own logic. Or perhaps reality did. The world turned upside down and then... Silence. Xiao Zhan woke up. He found himself in his apartment, sunlight streaming in through the curtains. The air was warm, quiet, ordinary. Too ordinary. The dream clung to him like dew on morning leaves, impossible to shake. He rubbed his eyes and sat up slowly. But before he could even take a breath, his phone buzzed. "Message. From Wang Yibo. Are you awake?" Xiao Zhan stared at the screen, a shock of recognition running through him. It was the same message tone, the same timing, the same voice that had echoed in his dream. He typed back. "Yeah. Why?" A moment passed. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Just felt like checking in. "You suddenly crossed my mind." Xiao Zhan's heart gave a strange, sharp tug. He hesitated before replying. "Funny." I dreamed about you. He regretted it instantly. Then the reply came quickly. Same. He froze. What were the odds? The room felt different now. Charged like the air in the dream city. For a moment, the line between waking and dreaming blurred so perfectly that Xiao Zhan had to steady himself. Before the thought could settle, his phone buzzed again. Can we meet? Today. The dream flashed behind his eyes. The city of mirrors. The lake that held memories and possibilities. Yibo's voice saying, "You were supposed to come." Maybe dreams didn't lie. Maybe they revealed truths reality tried to hide. When Xiao Zhan walked into the cafe later that afternoon, Wang Yibo was already there. He wasn't glowing like in the dream, wasn't emerging from mirrors, wasn't surrounded by drifting lanterns. He was simply there, warm hoodie leaning back, fingers lightly tapping the cup in a familiar rhythm. But his eyes held the echo of the dream. "You look like you didn't sleep," Yibo said quietly. "I had a strange night," Xiao Zhan replied, taking the seat across from him. "Me too." Silence settled. Not heavy, not awkward, but thick with something unsaid. Something remembered. Yibo leaned forward slightly. "Tell me your dream." Xiao Zhan inhaled slowly, feeling the world tilt. "Only if you tell me yours." They exchanged a long look, the kind that feels like a doorway opening. Then Yibo gave a small nod. "Fair." He described the shifting city, the mirrors, the lake. Every detail tumbled out in soft, calm words. But with each piece he revealed, Xiao Zhan felt shock bloom in his chest. It was the same dream. Not similar. The same. By the time Yibo finished, Xiao Zhan felt the world around him dissolve again, just like the dream city. The cafe lights seemed to hum. The air felt too warm, too alive. "You're telling me," Xiao Zhan whispered, "we had the same dream?" Yibo didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a folded scrap of paper. He slid it across the table. "Woke up with this in my hand," he said. Xiao Zhan frowned and unfolded it. His breath left him. It was a sketch of the lake from the dream. Perfectly drawn, perfectly clear, right down to the floating lanterns. "You drew this?" Xiao Zhan whispered. Yibo shook his head. "I don't remember drawing it." The world shifted. Not literally, not visibly, but something unseen clicked into place. A crack in reality revealing a flash of dream. The city, the lake, the rooftop sunrise. And between all of it, him and Yibo, walking together across the blurred edges of two worlds that refused to stay separate. "What does it mean?" Xiao Zhan asked, his voice barely audible. Yibo's eyes softened, a depth in them that made the air thicken. "I think," he said slowly, "it means we're connected in ways we don't fully understand." The words hung between them like glowing threads, weaving through both their hearts. The moment Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo stepped out of the cafe, the world felt strangely synchronized with their breaths, like reality itself was listening. The afternoon sun was ordinary, the crowds were ordinary, the street noise was ordinary. Yet something underneath hummed with the unspoken truth tied between them. Xiao Zhan caught Yibo studying the sky as though he expected it to glitch, to flicker, to reveal the glowing dream world waiting beneath the surface. "You feel it too, don't you?" Xiao Zhan asked softly. Yibo didn't look away from the sky. "It's like the dream followed us here." They walked side by side, not rushing, not hesitating, just letting the silent gravity guide them. Every step seemed triggered by something invisible, like invisible strings tied their steps, gestures, breaths into a single rhythm honed across years. Then it happened. A street lamp flickered. Just once. But in that single flicker, Xiao Zhan saw it, the reflection of the dream city's neon glow rippling across the sidewalk for a brief second. The same electric haze. The same otherworldly shimmer. He froze. Yibo stopped immediately. "You saw it, right?" Xiao Zhan nodded slowly. For a moment, it was the dream. The lamp flickered again. And suddenly, the city shifted. Not fully, not completely, but enough for their surroundings to blur. The crowd disappeared in a wave of golden dust. Buildings stretched imperceptibly. The sound of traffic dissolved into the distant echo of the lake from their dream. The dream was bleeding into reality. Xiao Zhan felt a chill slip down his spine, not from fear but from awe. Ba stepped forward, voice low. I think this isn't random. I think we triggered something. When we met today. Xiao Zhan asked. No, Yibo turned his gaze to him, intense and unwavering. When we both remembered. The lamp flickered a third time, this time holding the glow longer, turning the air into shimmering gold. The world between worlds vibrated, expanding like breath held too long. And then, the dream city flashed into existence around them. Not fully, not sharply, but layered on top of the real world like a ghost. Glass towers merged with real buildings. Lanterns floated through the air, faint but visible. The ground rippled like water beneath their feet. Xiao Zhan inhaled shakily. This is impossible. Yibo took a step closer, lowering his voice. Impossible doesn't mean untrue. For a moment, Xiao Zhan wasn't sure if he was awake or asleep. The edges of everything blurred, pulling him back into the dream he'd tried so hard to understand. Why us? Xiao Zhan asked, barely above a whisper. Yibo's gaze softened in a way only he could manage. Calm, steady, grounding. Maybe because the world between dreams and reality listens to connection. Connection. Xiao Zhan echoed, feeling heat rise beneath his skin. Yeah, Yibo said quietly. Ours. The dream city pulsed again at the exact moment those words left his mouth, as if the universe itself acknowledged the truth in them. Then, slowly, the golden shimmer dissolved. Reality snapped back into place. The crowds returned, the cars honked, and the street lamps stood still as if nothing mystical had happened at all. But Xiao Zhan and Yibo both felt the shift inside them. The line between dream and real had thinned, stretched, and bent, and it was still bending. Later that night, Xiao Zhan stood by his apartment window, staring at the city lights. Every blink of neon reminded him of the dream city's glow. Every reflection in the glass reminded him of the mirrors Yibo stepped from. He wasn't sure if he should sleep or avoid sleeping entirely. Before he could decide, his phone buzzed. Video call. Xiao Zhan answered, and the screen lit up with Yibo's face. Soft lighting, hair slightly messy, eyes steady and searching. You okay? Yibo asked. Not even close. Good, Yibo said. Me neither. Xiao Zhan huffed a breathy laugh. That's supposed to make me feel better. A little, Yibo said. Because I think we're supposed to go back. Back where? The dream, Yibo said simply. Xiao Zhan froze. You think we can choose that? We already did, Yibo replied. Today. When we followed it. The line went quiet. Not awkward. Just charged. Then Yibo added softly. You feel it too. And Xiao Zhan did. Deeply. Like something ancient and magnetic had awakened inside him. All right, Xiao Zhan whispered. What do we do? Yibo's voice dropped to a near whisper. Close your eyes. What? Just trust me. Xiao Zhan hesitated only a moment before doing exactly that. Now breathe, Yibo murmured. Slow. Listen for the lake. Xiao Zhan inhaled. Exhaled. The world softened. He could hear it, the faint ripple of water, the soft chime of floating lanterns, the shifting hum of the dream city. A hand touched his. Warm. Real. He gasped. His eyes flew open. And he wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was standing at the edge of the dream lake, lanterns drifting overhead like constellations. The sky shimmered gold. The air glowed with the impossible. And next to him, hand still touching his, was Yibo. No phone between them, no screen, just startlingly present. You see, Yibo whispered. We're the bridge. Reality follows where we go. Xiao Zhan felt his breath catch. Not from confusion but from clarity. The dream wasn't a dream. The dream was a place. A place only they could enter. A place built from memory, from emotion, from connection so strong it bent the rules of the waking world. What now? Xiao Zhan asked. Yibo turned to him fully, the lantern light catching in his eyes, turning them into molten gold. Now, Yibo said, we explore. They stepped forward together, and with every step, the dream city grew sharper, brighter, more real. The lake rippled with reflections of moments they never lived but deeply felt. The air whispered with echoes of unspoken truths. And Xiao Zhan realized something undeniable. Maybe the dream wasn't where they escaped reality. Maybe the dream was where they finally faced it. The world shimmered as the two of them walked deeper into the golden landscape. Two figures moving through a place that existed only because of them, because of what connected them, because of what they had never dared to name. As the lanterns floated higher, as the water glowed brighter, as the dream city opened before them like the pages of a forgotten story, Xiao Zhan knew. This was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this continuation and want more episodes of Between Reality and Dream, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel.